What if I told you that disappearing is louder than shouting? That walking away without a word can echo louder in someone's mind than any scream ever could? You see, most people think strength is loud raised voices, dramatic exits, emotional explosions. But the strongest man in the room isn't the one trying to prove his worth. It's the one who doesn't need to. A masculine man knows when to speak and when to stay silent. And when it's time to leave, he doesn't announce it, he doesn't beg for understanding, and he definitely doesn't explain himself. He just walks quietly, calmly, with no trail behind him, but the memory of his absence. In today's world, men are told to chase, to prove, to explain, to keep showing up even after they've been disrespected or replaced. But a real man doesn't chase what walks away from him. He doesn't lower his value trying to convince someone to stay. He doesn't argue for space in someone else's life. He simply understands this. If he has to force it, it's not for him. That's not bitterness, it's power, it's self-respect in motion. Because detachment isn't the lack of feeling, it's the mastery of it. And silence, when chosen with intent, becomes a weapon stronger than words. This isn't about playing games. This is about knowing your worth without needing anyone else to validate it. Real men don't chase, they disappear. And when they do, the silence they leave behind is deafening. Welcome to Master Stoic Secrets. This is where we break the lies that have kept men weak, confused, and constantly chasing what never respected them. The world has fed you a dangerous idea that if you love her more, chase harder, explain louder, she stay. But what if that's not true? What if that's exactly why she lost respect in the first place? See, they tell men that strength means never giving up on someone, even when that person has already walked away. They teach you that silence is cold, that distance is cruel, that walking away means you didn't care enough. But the truth is the complete opposite. Chasing someone who disrespects you isn't love, it's self-betrayal. And the man who refuses to chase, he isn't heartless, he's finally awake. This video is for the man who's tired of being told to beg, explain, apologize for simply standing firm. It's for the man who's been left broken and still asked to carry the blame. Today, that ends, because we're not here to chase. We're here to rebuild. To return to something real, something unshakable. A way of living that doesn't bend for validation or fold under pressure. A mindset built on clarity, control, and quiet strength. In the next 10 principles, you're going to hear hard truths. Not soft advice, not emotional fluff. These are lessons forged in silence, sharpened by detachment, and powered by the unbreakable force of Stoic masculinity. Each one will challenge what you've been taught. Each one will separate the boys who beg from the men who disappear. This isn't about revenge, it's about rising. So if you're ready to unlearn the lies and take back the power you were born with, keep listening. This is where everything changes. There was a man, not a weak man, not a bad one, just a man, who believed love meant giving everything. And so he did. He gave her his time, his attention, his full presence. He was there when she needed to cry, when she felt lost, when the world was too heavy. He forgave her when she crossed lines she shouldn't have. He swallowed his pride when she pulled away, thinking maybe if he held on tighter, she'd stay. He thought loyalty meant staying no matter what it cost him. Even when it hurt, even when he felt himself shrinking, he kept showing up, hoping she'd see it, hoping she'd come back to the man who never stopped choosing her. But she didn't. She left, not with a heavy heart, not with regret, just distance. Cold, calculated distance. And in that moment, he almost did what he always did. He almost sent that long message. He almost begged for clarity. Almost reached out one more time to prove that he was still willing to fight. But something inside him cracked open. Not from weakness, but from truth. He finally saw it. She wasn't confused. She wasn't waiting for him to say the right thing. She had made a choice. And now it was his turn to make one. So he didn't text. He didn't call. He didn't check her story or like her post. He didn't try to be seen. He vanished, not to hurt her, not to play games, but because something deeper in him woke up. A voice that said, enough. And in the silence that followed, everything changed. She noticed the stillness. She noticed the gap where he used to be. That presence she once took for granted was gone. No more validation. No more comfort. Just absence. That's when the power shifted. Not because he tried to make her regret it, but because he finally respected himself enough to let go. She expected a broken man. She got silence. She expected a chase. She got peace. And in that quiet decision, he became someone new, not the man who chased, but the one she could no longer reach. He didn't disappear because he felt nothing. He disappeared because he finally allowed himself to feel everything. That's the part most people don't understand. Pain isn't a sign of weakness, it's a signal. A message from deep inside that something isn't right. That the way you've been living, loving, giving, it's been costing more than it's been returning. But instead of listening to that pain, most men try to run from it. They bury it under distractions, scrolling, drinking, fake smiles, hookups. That mean nothing. Anything to avoid sitting alone with that sharp, hollow feeling in their chest. But the man who disappears doesn't run from the pain. He faces it. He lets it burn through him, not to destroy him, but to clean him. Because once you stop numbing, once you stop trying to fix everything on the outside, you start to rebuild something real on the inside. You don't cry to her, you don't text her paragraphs trying to make her understand. You sit with that silence. You let the nights feel long. You let the memories hit. And then slowly, you start to change. That's what real men do. They don't post sad quotes. They don't ask for pity. They bleed quietly, in private, and they use that pain as the fuel for something stronger. Because the man who disappears isn't avoiding the world, he's rebuilding in the shadows. He's becoming someone no one saw coming. The pain sharpens. His focus, the heartbreak, becomes his blueprint. And without saying a single word, he starts to level up in silence. By the time the world hears from him again, he's not the same man she left. He's colder, not out of bitterness, but because he's finally protecting the parts of him he used to give away too easily. That's the power of feeling everything once and then disappearing. Not to escape, but to evolve. The moment you start chasing, you give away your power. It's as if you've already accepted that you need her validation to feel whole, that her attention is the only thing that can make you feel valuable. But here's the reality. Chasing is emotional slavery. When you chase, you stop seeing yourself as enough. You place all your worth in her hands, and that imbalance isn't just unhealthy, it's dangerous. She becomes the prize. And the more you chase, the more she becomes the one who holds all the cards. You're no longer a man with a purpose, you're a man who has lost his way. Real power isn't in begging, explaining, or proving. Real power is in disappearing. When you disappear, you don't need her to validate you. You take your energy back. You make your purpose the prize. Suddenly, she's the one left wondering what happened. She's the one chasing clarity. She's the one trying to figure out where you went, why you stopped seeking her approval. And that confusion, that uncertainty, it flips the script. Now, the power lies with you. You've shown her that you're not going to bow to emotional whims or empty promises. You've taken your own worth and placed it on something much more meaningful, yourself. Masculine energy isn't meant to be directed towards people, especially not people who don't value it. It's meant to be directed towards purpose, towards building, creating, growing, and living with intention. A man who chases is a man who has lost focus on his own goals. The man who moves with purpose, he never chases. Instead, he attracts. And that's where the real power is. Not in the chase, but in the quiet confidence that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you're about. When you stop chasing, you stop giving away your strength. You start building the life that makes people chase you, not because you're trying to prove something, but because you're living with undeniable purpose. Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. When you choose silence, you're not retreating. You're creating tension, psychological tension, that lingers long after the words have been said. Think about it. When emotions run high, when everything feels intense, what does she expect? She expects a breakdown. She expects you to crumble, to spill your heart out, to beg for clarity. That's what she's used to. But when you stay silent, when you don't give her what she expects, that's when the power shifts. Suddenly, you're a mystery. You flip the script, and she's left wondering why you didn't react, why you didn't chase, why you didn't crumble under the pressure. And that silence? It haunts her more than any words ever could. In a world that thrives on noise, silence holds more power than anyone gives it credit for. It's not passive and it's not giving up. It's emotional warfare at its finest. You're not just quiet for the sake of it. You're quiet because you know what you're doing. Silence builds your value in ways words never could. It forces her to confront the unanswered questions, the things left unsaid, and it leaves her feeling something she can't quite explain. And that feeling, it sticks with her. It builds in her mind until she's constantly replaying the silence, wondering what it means, why it's happening, and if she's the one who's lost control. This is the kind of power that comes from emotional mastery. You control yourself, your emotions, your reactions. And in that control, you create an air of dominance, not through shouting or fighting, but through the ability to remain calm and centered when the storm rages. Silence isn't passive. It's warfare. It's a declaration that you don't need anyone's validation to be strong. And it's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing at all. The moment you start explaining yourself, you're already losing. Explanation is just a form of validation seeking, and once you're in that position, you've handed over your power. When you feel the need to explain why you did something, why you said something, or why you acted a certain way, you're trying to convince someone that your actions were justified. But here's the truth. You're not on trial. You don't owe anyone a justification for how you choose to live your life. The real strength lies in the ability to move on without saying a word. Masculine men don't waste time explaining themselves. They don't beg for understanding or try to rationalize their actions. Instead, they walk away quietly with their dignity intact. They know that their worth doesn't depend on anyone's approval. So when a situation no longer aligns with their values or when someone no longer respects them, they don't linger. And they don't argue. They leave, and they leave without fanfare. Their absence becomes their explanation. When you exit without explanation, you're showing that your life isn't up for debate. You're not begging for validation or hoping for approval. You're simply living according to your own standards, and that's powerful. People who are used to being chased, who expect explanations, will be left wondering what happened. And that confusion, it's your strength. It's your power. When you stop justifying, you stop giving away control of the situation. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone. Your actions, your silence, and your exit are enough. Let them figure it out. Your absence speaks louder than any words ever could. Indifference doesn't mean you hate someone. It's not about bitterness or pretending that you don't care. It's about moving on internally and refusing to let someone else's actions or emotions control yours. When you master indifference, you reach a point where nothing externally shakes you. You've become emotionally independent, and that's true power. It's a quiet strength that comes from within. You don't need to react, you don't need to chase, and you certainly don't need to beg. You've moved past the need for validation. And that's the essence of masculine energy. When you stop being affected by what she says or does, you regain control over your own peace. She can no longer predict your reactions, and that uncertainty makes her wonder. People are drawn to what they can't predict. It creates a sense of curiosity, a feeling that they need to figure you out. And eventually, that curiosity turns to regret. You start wondering why you're no longer there, why you didn't react the way she expected. And that regret? It lingers far longer than anything else. It's more powerful than any argument, more lasting than any emotional plea. Stoicism teaches us that peace doesn't require permission. It's a state of being that you create for yourself, regardless of what's happening around you. When you master indifference, you're no longer waiting for external validation or approval. You've found peace within yourself. This is the core of masculine strength, the ability to remain calm, centered, and unaffected by things outside your control. When you stop seeking validation and stop letting people dictate how you should feel, you begin to walk in your own power. Indifference isn't coldness, it's freedom. It's living for yourself, not for the approval of others. And when you truly embrace that, you become untouchable. Every time she disrespects you, don't respond like a pet. A pet begs, follows, and tolerates bad behavior, but you're not her emotional support animal. Instead, you're a mirror. A mirror doesn't chase or beg for attention. It simply reflects what's put in front of it. If she disrespects you, let her see the consequences of her actions. Don't react impulsively. Instead, detach and give her a reflection of her behavior. Your silence, your distance, is your response. That's how you set boundaries without saying a word. You don't have to argue, justify, or explain anything. Just reflect the behavior she's showing you. If she disrespects you, you simply stop rewarding it with attention. Masculine men understand the power of detachment. They don't let someone's behavior dictate their emotions. Instead, they let that behavior show them how to respond, or more importantly, how not to respond. When you reflect her energy, you're showing her that you won't tolerate anything less than respect. You don't absorb her negativity. You simply mirror it back to her, and that alone shifts the dynamic. If she's treating you with disrespect, you don't beg for her to change. You let her feel the emptiness that comes with her actions. That's how you take back control. You don't chase after her to fix things. You let her see herself through your lack of response. And that's how real change happens. Your silence, your emotional control, sends the message that you won't settle for less. You set the standard without having to say a word. Just like a mirror reflects everything in front of it, you reflect the energy that's given to you, but you never absorb it. Disappearing doesn't mean running away. It's about relocating to a higher level. When someone leaves your life, instead of sitting around and wallowing in the pain, you use that void as fuel to rebuild yourself. You take all that emotional energy and channel it into something that strengthens you. The gym, your purpose, your business, your mission. These are the things that become your therapy. You work on your body, your mind, and your future, because these are the things you can control. You stop focusing on what's outside of your control, like her or the relationship, and you start focusing on what you can build. This process creates a life so rich, so full of purpose that she becomes irrelevant. You stop needing anyone else to feel complete. You're already whole, and you're focused on becoming the best version of yourself. When you focus on building your own fortress, your mental, emotional, and physical strength, you create a life that's unshakable. You no longer need validation from anyone else, because you've found your worth within yourself. Stoicism teaches us to focus only on what's in our control, and that's exactly what you do when you build your inner fortress. You can't control how people treat you, but you can control how you respond and how you shape your life. Every challenge, every hardship becomes an opportunity to grow. You turn the pain of loss into the power of creation. Instead of focusing On what's gone, you pour your energy into what's possible. And when you're focused on building a life that's powerful and meaningful, you become untouchable. Nothing can shake you, because your foundation is built on your own strength. Every time you break silence, you're sending a message to yourself and to her that you're emotionally weak, that you still need something from her to feel complete. Sending a message, even just to check in, is like giving yourself a hit of emotional weakness. It resets all the healing you've done and puts you back in a place of vulnerability. You don't need closure from her. You are the closure. By staying silent, you give yourself the power to move on. You don't need her explanation or to hear her side. Your silence becomes your strength. And it's in that silence that the real shift begins. When you stay no contact, she starts wondering. She wonders why you're not chasing, why you're not reaching out, why you don't care. That's when the power dynamic shifts. You stop being the one who's left waiting for answers and start becoming the one who holds all the control. The moment you break no contact, you lose that leverage. You put yourself back in the emotional game and you start chasing again, even if it's just for a reply. This is why no contact isn't just a tactic, it's a principle. It's about maintaining control over your emotions and not letting them dictate your actions. Every time you break that silence, you remind yourself that you're still emotionally invested, and that's where the power is lost. By sticking to no contact, you preserve your dignity, your strength, and your focus. You show that you've moved on, and you stop letting her have any influence over your emotional state. The key is to stay silent, not because you don't care, but because you respect yourself enough to not chase after something that's already gone. In your absence, she learns more than she ever could while you were there. It's not about what you say or do when you're around. It's about what she realizes in your absence. Every day you're gone, your value increases, silently but powerfully. It's like the quiet buildup of something far greater than the noise of your presence. Your silence forces her to confront her choices, to deal with the reality of what she let go. Without your presence, she has no distractions to cloud her judgment. She can no longer take your value for granted, you see. When you disappear, you give her the space to truly reflect, to understand the weight of what she's lost. This is how respect is earned, not by chasing it, but by stepping away and allowing it to find you. You stop running after validation, after her attention. Instead, you let the space you create do the talking. It's in your disappearance that she starts to realize how much you were worth, and that realization can be more powerful than anything you could say. This is the real power of masculine energy, the ability to walk away and let your absence become a lesson. You don't need to convince her of your worth. You don't need to plead, beg, or chase. By disappearing, you make it clear that you respect yourself enough to move on. And in doing so, you set the stage for her to respect you in return. There's a certain respect that comes from walking alone, from standing tall with a clear sense of direction. The world notices men who walk with purpose, men who don't need others to define them. They are self-sufficient, and that strength commands respect. You see, you don't need to be chosen by anyone. The real power comes from choosing yourself, from prioritizing your own goals and vision over seeking approval or validation from others. This isn't loneliness. It's leadership. When you walk alone, you're not isolated. You're leading your own life with confidence and determination. You're not waiting for others to complete you. Instead, you know that your purpose and focus are what shape your reality. And when you walk with that kind of energy, people can't help but notice. Men who truly embody masculine power don't disappear out of fear or weakness. They disappear because they are too focused on their own journey to be distracted. Their mission, their growth, and their purpose become the center of their lives. They've built something that matters, something bigger than any relationship, something that requires their full attention. And because of that, they are not easily found or swayed. The transformation is clear. From chasing validation to walking a path of purpose, these men don't need anyone to tell them who they are. They walk alone, tall and assured, knowing they are on the right track. If you're ready to stop chasing and start building, then take action now. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new lesson. This journey of self-improvement and inner strength doesn't stop here. It's just beginning. I'd love to hear from you. In the comments below, share the lesson that hit hardest for you. Which principle resonated the most, and how are you planning to apply it in your life? Your thoughts and experiences could help someone else who's going through the same struggles. And stay tuned for the next video. We'll dive into what happens when she comes back, but you're no longer waiting. That's when the real transformation begins, and we'll explore how to navigate that shift. Keep building yourself, stay focused on your mission, and remember, your value doesn't depend on anyone else. See you in the next one.